Your choices, your actions, that's what makes you who you are. Hey, buddy, eyes up here. Cinema, folks. Absolute motherfucking cinema. This is why we go to the movies. James Gunn did it again with the best live action adaptation of Superman's tale. It's the best version I've seen. And you can fight me in the comments on that, folks. Let's get to it. Superman 2025, written and directed by James Gunn, who has injected an absolute teetotal amount of adrenaline, enthusiasm, energy, and every drug known to man and known on every other planet into this next chapter in the Superman universe, in the DCU, whatever you want to call it. This is jam-packed, overstuffed at times, but will leave such a goddamn smile on your face from ear to ear, from sea to shining sea. David Cornsweet doesn't just play Superman, he is Superman. He is everything that Christopher Reeve should have been in the last number of movies. But that being said, Christopher Reeve's still one of the best all-time superhero characters. Great goddamn work in the 1978 version, and then everything else fell into a goddamn hole. But I digress. You can check out my retro reviews of that. By the way, if David Cornsweet is a name that really doesn't quite ring a bell, he was in this. He was in Pearl. You know who he was? He was the projectionist. You know how I remember that? Somebody had to tell me. As much as I love Pearl, I didn't put it together. He was great in this. He was absolutely enthralling. So Pearl is something you need to check out after you watch X. Otherwise, you won't really understand what's going on. That being said, David Cornsweet is Clark Kent, who is Superman. And really, if you don't know Superman's origin story, you are gonna, well, you might be kind of lost on this because they have a scrolling text thing in the beginning, and then we are plopped right into the goddamn action. We are jammed into the fire, as our Lord and Savior Doken once said, about, well, it is about a war that Superman tries to stop, and then things go absolutely batshit insane because, man, he has to balance the fact that he is Krypton's last surviving son, or only surviving son, as it were, with trying to save humanity. He is trying to balance his otherworldly powers, his absolute power, and also save the people that he loves, because he is just as human as everybody on Earth. And it is absolutely just a fucking blast. I can't just talk about enough how over the moon I was from the very beginning. John Williams' score, 5 fucking stars already, baby. Actually, that wouldn't have necessarily done it because, to be fair, John Williams' music was in the other adaptations, especially in the 80s. And Superman Returns gets a bad rap. It wasn't necessarily perfect, but it was what it was. I didn't mind Man of Steel, but I do need to go back and rewatch at some point. And basically, this is described as basically a live-action, big-budget version of, like, you know, remember the Superman cartoon from the 90s? Remember that? You know, when you had the Batman animated series. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Rest in peace, my God. What great television that was. That was destination fucking programming. That's when animation was king. And it really is like that. It just is jammed with so many references, so many Easter eggs. It is so fun. It is such a blast. It is colorful. It is bright. It is funny. And it is enthralling. It is absolutely enthralling. I cannot, again, state just how great this movie is. So, and I'm not the biggest superhero fan, by the way. I'm not into the MCU and the DECU or DCU, whatever the hell they fucking called it. You know, the one where The Rock was going to try to, change the hierarchy of power. How'd that work out, Dwayne, with Black Adam? Good Lord. But, well, David can't do it alone. We do have Rachel Brosnahan, who plays Lois Lane, who is, she's good in this, and she is a smoke show. She is a fucking smoke show. Nicholas Hoult, by the way, who was in Nosferatu and was also in Renfield and is a great actor. There is only one point where his UK accent comes out. It is rather hilarious. When I heard that, I go, oh, they didn't want to bother to reshoot that, but what? It was funny. He plays Lex Luthor, who is Superman's arch nemesis. And since this is jamming us right into the firefight without any origin or whatever besides that text, we see that Luthor Corp is just, jam-packed with all this tech, and he's got a team, and he's trying to take down Superman, and there's just a lot of great shit going on. You also have Skylar Gazzondo, who plays Jimmy Olsen. He's very good. I really liked the scenes that he was in. You had, as the engineer, and I'm just naming these characters. Those that are really into the Superman stuff will know what I'm talking about. And I took lots of notes, by the way, so you will forgive me. But Maria Gabriela de Faria, who, yes, more of her. Boy, howdy. Whatever screen time she gets, she kills it. God, she's beautiful, too. Anyway, the real show-stealing performance, though, is by Eddie Gathegi, who plays Mr. Terrific. Fucking phenomenal. I mean, that is almost supporting actor-worthy shit. They won't nominate superhero movies for anything other than visual effects and sound design. Every scene he is in, he steals it. The humor is top-notch. The timing on the jokes is impeccable. There's Krypto the Super Dog, who's just a great old, the goodest boy, the goodest overpowered boy. And then you have Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, who pulls that off very well. She doesn't get a lot of screen time, but she does pretty well. You have Nathan Fillion, who was in Castle and Firefly as Green Lantern, and he actually has some good scenes as well. Anthony Carrigan, I was very happy to see him in this. He's actually Metamorpho. He was in Death of a Unicorn as the main lead butler or servant, as it were, and he was really fucking great in that, so I'm happy to see him getting more work. And then you have Wendell Pierce as Percy White, Perry White, actually, that's what I think what it is. I'm sorry, I'm really, really goddamn excited, so forgive me if I mispronounce a couple of these names. You have Neva Howell, you have Frank Grillo, who I think it's in his contract with whatever deity keeps him in incredible shape like he's a 25-year-old man, that he has to play a military man or former military, and he can't play anything else. It's like when he was in Werewolves. I wish I remember Werewolves. Sarah Samperel, who was Eve Tessmacher, who looks the part, I'll say that much. You have Michaela Hoover as Cat Grant, who, by the way, look up Michaela Hoover's age. You will be very fucking surprised. I thought 23 to 25. She is 40. I did not believe that. Bradley Cooper as Jor-El. You have Palm Kay, as I call her, as one of the automatons that is part of the Fortress of Solitude. Michael Rooker and Michael Rosenbaum. Various people are in this, including Alan Tudyk, who's just... It's packed. It is so packed with so many people. They don't even get enough time. They're almost going to have to expand this thing and do a sequel, which I certainly hope they greenlit. Because if this thing is not a smash hit, I will be amazed. It better be a smash hit. Because between the advertising campaign and all the stuff going on, $225 million budget. So basically, to set the scene, Superman must wrestle with his Kryptonian heritage as well as his humanity and try to stop the world from being ripped asunder by Lex Luthor and other forces. That's pretty much it right there. There isn't a whole lot else to dive into before getting into spoilers, but they even managed to, have the relationship between Lois and Clark. Not the Adventures of Superman. Speaking of which, I'm just going to talk here briefly and probably get political, by the way. I'm wearing this shirt. If this shirt bothers you, I don't fucking care. Dean Cain talks about how Superman's too woke. Dean Cain, that guy that was in Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman, that hasn't been really in anything good since then because he is a crackpot conservative piece of shit. And they're not all pieces of shit, just he is, and others like Kevin Sorbo and whatnot, that don't understand why they're not being cast in Hollywood. You know why? Because A, you weren't all that talented to begin with, and B, you're a fucking nut job that doesn't want to work with proper people. And you're not a draw at all. Who said, I want to see a movie with Dean Cain in it? If you said that in the last 20 years, please seek help. Please. But for those that are upset at James Gunn's comments, and oh my god, he made it political about Superman, do you not pay attention to the Superman comics and the point of Superman and Superman's standing for humanity and the American way and whatnot that can evolve over time? Do you not understand what the point of Superman is? It's like cops and others that put the Punisher logo on there, ignoring what the goddamn Punisher stands for and stands against, i.e. the people that want to use his logo like that. It is fucking mind-blowing how stupid people are. So if conservatives or MAGA fucks, which if you are a MAGA fuck watching this, I hope you know that you are an embarrassment to humanity, you are an embarrassment to this country, and an embarrassment to any society that is not even known to humanity yet. You, quite frankly, are the scum of the fucking earth. And I would say this to members of my family, so what fucking chance do you have to really make me feel bad? Except I would say I pity you, but I stopped pitying you all years and years ago. So if you guys don't want to see it, fine. More room for people that actually appreciate movies for what they are. Entertainment and enthralling cinema. It is exactly what you go to the movies for. See it in the biggest theater you can, in the best format you can. I unfortunately was only able to see it at the cinema in my town, but I was able to catch it in the biggest theater. And despite the fact that some people probably need to learn to tie their kids down or keep them on leashes, or maybe not bring small children into a movie that's 2+ hours, nevertheless, this movie is a goddamn insane total blast. And if MAGA folks are so upset by it, oh no, go to your goddamn Angel Studios stuff and go support your stuff that basically just beat you over the head with shit like Nefarious, and leave the real movies to people that actually care about humanity, because you sure fucking don't. So that being said, we're going to dive a little bit into the conflict that takes place between the countries of Boravia and Jaranpur, which I'm going to assume are made up names. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, obviously they are. Just, it's pretty obvious what conflict they're going with here. Some kind of Middle East thing. And there's also sprinkling of other references here. The fights are great. There's this one monster fight a little bit into it that involves, there's a part in the trailer where he saves a girl, and that is during that monster fight. I have to say that James Gunn packed it perfectly with the right amount of action while also balancing the story and advancing the story. He's not trying to tell it differently. He's trying to let the actors just be the characters. And again, David Corenswet is exactly who they wanted to have as Superman for all these goddamn years. That's something against Brendan Routh. Henry Cavill was fine. I actually thought he was a pretty good Superman. He just wasn't given a lot of great material to go with, like Ben Affleck as Batman. That wasn't all that great. But the whole thing is between Superman and Lex Luthor, and also there are some great scenes with David and the two people that play the parents, and it's so goddamn enthralling. Once again, 1000% enthralling. I'm going to get into spoilers, finally, thank fucking Christ. But it is in theaters. See it in the biggest format you can, and support films like this so we can see other great films like this. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, now that I've probably scared off the limited amount of MAGA folks that are on my channel, which I really hope I get every single one of you to go, because guess what? I appreciate people for supporting my channel, but y'all are scum. Don't deserve happiness. Pull your head out of your ass. Anyway, we start off with the text of 3 decades ago. He arrived from Krypton as it was dying. 3 years ago, he revealed himself as Superman. 3 weeks ago, he stopped the war between Boravia and Jaranpur. And if I'm mispronouncing those, I do apologize. There were a few different people to pronounce them. And then, like 3 hours ago, he got into a fight with the Hammer of Boravia, who, by the way, is in a suit, almost like a Juggernaut bitch suit, and it's Ultraman, who is actually the clone Superman. Just wanted to say that right there, not reveal it here at the end, and I wanted to make sure I didn't forget, because, again, there's a lot to dive into. Too much if I tried to do an entire video about all the ins and outs and everything and all the characters. It would literally take me an hour to talk about this, and it would be too long of a video. So go for podcasts to do the dissection and everything. I'm giving you kind of an overlay. But 3 minutes ago, he lost a fight for the first time, and he crash lands. Crypto takes him home. Kind of hilarious how he's licking him and jumping all over him and everything, but he's beat up. And then the automatons save him, bring him into the sun. He's healed as much as he can be, but he's like 83%. He's like, I gotta get back out there, gotta go. Yes, Kryptonian heritage calls me. Also, there's the thing about his parents' message, where it's fine at first, but it's garbled at the end. Later on, Lex Luthor actually gets the engineer to hack into and infest and get deep inside the computer. I'm leaving that one alone, but let me just say, Maria, who is gorgeous. I mean, good God, whoever is lucky enough to have her bear treat her like the queen she is. But she was great in this, and she has powers like she can hack the stuff. She has nanites. She's infused with this. She gave her humanity to help Lex Luthor, who has this great, a detachable part to the Luthor Corp building that's like 2 buildings joined in the middle with like this pod thing that flies out. And actually we see the fight with the hammer of Baravia as well, where we see that he's getting beat up, but the reason is Lex Luthor is able to call commands to him because he was able to get some of Superman's DNA, therefore clone him, make him Ultraman, this kind of stuff. But he's a simple-minded, just fighting fuck, that's all he's going to be. Now, we do see that Superman ends up basically not doing all that well here, even though he's able to beat some of them. For whatever reason, he can't beat up this whole thing. By the way, there's also this tunnel system with like these seemingly hollowed out jet engine things that are like for a pocket universe. If you're even one little bit off, you're going to create a black hole. More on that here in a little bit. And then he gives an interview to Lois, who is like, you know, as Superman. And she knows he's Superman, by the way. He's wearing hypno glasses where his face looks all different. So they can't tell that this same guy is actually playing Superman. And is Superman, by the way. Once again, David Corenswet is Superman. So, he gives an interview, but he starts to get more amped up and everything because he's like, I stopped a war and all this. There's this guy, Gurkos, who is an evil authoritarian for Baravia. He's like the prime minister, or chancellor, or ruler, or dictator, whatever it is. And people, you know, people were gonna die, and he's getting all fired up and everything, and he doesn't want to hurt Lois. But Rachel plays Lois perfectly, I do want to say. She's not just a damsel in distress. She actually is strong, independent, and don't need no man. But she has Clark Kent. So, the Justice Gang also appears. We have the Green Lantern. We have Hawkgirl. I have to say, by the way, Isabella actually does pull off the costume pretty well. I wasn't sure how putting somebody that young was going to be in it, but she carries herself well, and it works as far as a spin on the costume. And again, Eddie as Mr. Terrific, who is magnificent. Absolutely fucking magnificent. He's great. So, Luthor and the Engineer destroy the automatons. They trap Krypto. He's trapped in this pocket universe prison thing that's like the box deal that they had in Cabin in the Woods. And I know it's actually from the comics and other stuff, but just work with me here. He ends up kind of translating the footage, which could be doctored a little bit, who knows. But the other part of the message that was garbled or lost was, do us proud, our beloved son, rule without mercy. Well, let's just say society doesn't really appreciate that necessarily. By the way, when he does the monster fight and saves the little girl, he also saves a squirrel. Why that was hilarious and wholesome, I have no goddamn idea. So anyway, there is the pocket universe thing. Superman ends up basically ostracized. People are like, we supported him. He's going to destroy us and rule without mercy and everything, so we don't like him anymore. Meanwhile, Jimmy, who has a relationship with Miss Tessmacher, who, let's just say, you land a woman like that, you better fucking treat her right. But she kind of wants to be with him, and she's going to leak information to him, and she's always taking selfies. She's always taking stuff, and at weird angles and stuff like that. She ends up sending him a whole bunch of selfies at one point that shows that there's this stuff going on with Lex Luthor, that he is going to basically make a deal with Baravia for half of Jaranpur to create Luthoria, because we can't have any original names here, and also we have to kind of harken back to Gene Hackman's version in the 1978 version, may he rest in peace, where he wants to name it, you know, a silly name and just have a plot of land and stuff like that. And envy has dominated him, and he hates the fact that Superman has always been seen as good, while he is he's this cocky, cool and cocky and bad guy. If he was a honky-tonk man, then he should have had a guitar broken over his head, because a honky-tonk man never drew a dime. But, Anthony as Rex, aka Metamorpho rather, he can create any stone, most substances and everything, and he's kind of made half of rock, that kind of stuff. And he creates a kryptonite fist and holds it. And now Superman, who has given himself up to try and get information and basically try to give himself away because the government says Luthor can, you know, has the authority to take care of him, because the governments of this world are pretty fucking stupid, if we're being perfectly honest. I know. We currently have a pretty stupid government going on. But we then, you know, see that he's got the kryptonite, you know, rock variation held over him, so he's starting to... And Rex is doing this, or Metamorpho is doing this, because his son is being held. A very weird-looking son and everything. Like if Drax was just green instead of blue and more whiny. Actually, that's unfair. Batista did a really good job there. It's like if Groot wasn't cute. There we go. There it is. And then they had a thing, when they had the stuff about the news reports and everything, they had John Cena as fucking Peacemaker. And I don't know why that made me laugh so much. I saw that and go, oh, okay. All right, James Gunn, you got me. I mean, they already had me at 5 stars before this, but that was just fucking great. And then there's other stuff when basically like we have this like antimatter river, Mr. Terrific and Lois go off to try and find Superman there. He has these orbs or whatever. I forget what he fucking called them. I'm sorry. It's just a lot to take in. But he had these orbs that he also used to create a dome, an energy dome, while he laid out a whole bunch of the goddamn guards at the Luthor Corp, tent camp thing. And Lois is covered in the dome while he's just beating people up. And the orbs are taking people out. And then the orbs hack into the jet engine pocket universe gate thing, and he's like, yeah, if this thing is even like a centimeter off or barely off at all, if you don't time this right, if you don't do this right, you are going to end up creating a black hole. So then they were going to get into this pocket universe and into this thing, but the problem is they don't have the ship thing controlled by something that looks like if Groot was less evil pushing it along. And they have to get to Superman, but they don't have a way to do it. He has his orbs go because Krypto is also there in this prison. And I did like how Lois and Mr. Terrific, they had some pretty good chemistry there. There was one funny part actually earlier, just before that, before a lot of this stuff, before like he ended up giving himself up and got locked in this prison. Lois and Superman are talking. Well, there's this like space squiddy thing in the background that the Justice gang are fighting. And that's something Green Lantern wanted to make happen, but the other two weren't really on board. But it's like, no, they got it. It's just this. And it's just funny because it's just natural that this creature is just out there and they're just fighting it with their superpowers. And Superman hates social media, and then there's this shot of these monkeys that have, literally monkeys are just typing mean comments about that thing about social media and all that. And then, basically, Rex realizes what he's doing after a guy named Mally, I believe, who was a nice food vendor that gave food to Clark once, got brought and got shot in the head in a game of Russian roulette that went really, really badly while the Gurkos Glucose guy is there. And then he's like, I'll get that Clark Kent and bring him back here, because Lex Luthor, despite his intelligence, is not very smart with some of this stuff. But Rex says, if you can save my son, I will help you. He stops using the kryptonite rock, and then he creates an actual son. People are trying to alert him what's going on, or alert Lex, including one of his exes. And then he rescues the kid, and ends up basically getting in a firefight, shall we say. Rex can't carry him while he's transformed into weird forms for whatever reason. I guess plot device. But Soups and the kid end up getting caught in the antimatter river. Krypto ends up saving him. And I did like the one funny part just before that where Krypto dived on him after he got saved. And he says, Krypto, you're going to smash the baby. I don't know why that made me laugh so much. But also, Krypto was chasing after some of the orbs and stuff like that, and Mr. Terrific was getting pissed off because like, these orbs ain't cheap. But that would end up leading them to Superman, who they would end up getting out just in time. Rex would be okay, had the baby and all that, and Metamorpho was forever in Superman's debt. And then he had a pretty hot girlfriend actually at home, so good on him, because good grief, that blonde. Holy shit. So had just some blonde right there, just sitting there. I mean, looked maybe like probably in her like mid-20s or something like that, but nevertheless. So, basically what ends up happening is this gate ends up getting closed and beaten up. Well, then Lex Luthor decides to open it back up, but because he was a little bit off, it creates a rift that starts going through the ocean to Grandmother's house we go, hey, hey, and it's going to start to split Metropolis. Meanwhile, Barovia is about to invade Jaranpur, and Superman can't be in two places at once. He's talented, but he cannot be in two places at once. Tessmacher ends up sending Jimmy all this stuff with the selfies in the background and everything, and they're able to piece this all together that Lex Luthor has been making a deal with Barovia for cheaper stuff, or cheaper rates on weapons, so he can take over and have Luthoria. But then we have to basically we have to figure out what we're going to do, and there's this one cool moment where, he's healing up at his parents' place, and great heart to heart with the dad. That's a line I opened up with. Your choices and your actions, that's what makes you who you are. Good work by the parents, I will say that. And then he ends up helping Mr. Terrific, trying to seal the hole, but also realizing, shit, we need the code from Luthor. And Luthor also decides to separate from LuthCorp, the building, before they end up getting devoured. And now they can still control, with the actions and the moves, Ultraman, aka clone Superman. They can control him and hopefully destroy Superman as Metropolis is getting destroyed. And there was also a point where the nanites got into Superman's system from the engineer, and also Ultraman was there, and Supes flies into the goddamn sun and flies up into space, and then cascades back down, and they go into Earth, and he manages to get the nanites out of him, because I guess he killed him, and they got in his lungs, but he threw him up. And then the engineer is fucked. Let me just say that much. And he starts fighting with Ultraman. Meanwhile, we have that the Justice Gang is actually at Jaranpur. In awful English, I might add. And Green Lantern is just doing all the stuff with the ring, putting up the hands with the middle fingers and that kind of stuff. It's great. It's so great. It's so fucking great. There's a point where a kid just before that puts a flag up, begging Superman to come. Sorry, kid. Superman couldn't be here, but you got somebody better. And, Hawk Girl ends up getting that Gurkos guy, Grukos, whatever. Gurkos, yeah, that's what it is. It doesn't matter, really. It's weird Dr. Wily-haired individual. But she's carrying him out and everything. She says, he's like trying to play to her humanity. Like, oh, you're not going to do that to me. You're not going to drop me. You're just like Superman. I'm not like Superman. She drops him. And then we cut to some Alka-Seltzer going in some water. And that is right there fucking goddamn cinema. Now, we also have Krypto showing back up. And what we have a thing where, Ultraman brain beats brawn. That's something that Lex Luthor's saying. And he realizes all these cameras and all these, drones are giving him every angle to be able to anticipate Superman's every move. So Superman says to Krypto, get the toy. And he just starts going for all these things to destroy it. And it's so good. And Mr. Terrific's trying to figure out how to get this going and stop this rift, but they have to get to Lex Luthor's, hideaway. They manage to get there. That's, the floating ship part of LuthCorp. And then Mr. Terrific was like, this one guy, you don't need to help me. He just hacks into this, and he ends up finally closing the rift. And Lex Luthor is pissed off. It's like, oh my God, he's so goddamn pissed. And he wants to get a Superman. And then Krypto it's better than what the Hulk did to Loki. It is better than that. He is just throwing him. It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Krypto is just so goddamn happy and so enthralled, but so angry and everything. You can know what it's like to have an angry dog and a frustrated dog in the goddamn house. I bet you could hear right now. But he says just before that to Luthor that being human is what makes him, that's his greatest asset and makes him what he is. And then basically the Justice Gang, as they're called, even though Hawk Girl and Mr. Terrific don't like it, save Jaranpur. Then Rex says, I like the name Justice Gang. And he says, Green Lantern says, by the way, you're in. And then we go back where the robots are being repaired and they're all right and everything. And then suddenly Supergirl shows up in a cameo. And she is just over the moon to see her dog Krypto. I see, there's some issues that they have going on. It's just insane. And then we basically smash cut. After a little bit, we have everybody getting reunited. Jimmy and Miss Tessmacher get reunited. Again, you don't let a woman like that go. And then Superman offers an interview and says, let's go around this corner. They kiss. That romance is just going swimmingly. And then we cut to credits. And then we see a mid-credit sequence of Superman and Krypto sitting on the moon looking at Earth. It's a sweet moment. And then we see the post-credit scene, which I'll say right now is, because I'm at the end, is, Mr. Terrific trying to fix the buildings, but unfortunately it was a little bit off. And then he's like, well, can't you do... It's like, well, no, it's fine and everything. It's like, what, you want me to put it back here? No, it's fine. And then he says, darn it, I can be such a jerk sometimes. And that's when we end. Cinema, 5 stars, A+. This is fucking terrific. How high is it going to be on my best movies of the year list? Pretty high, probably. We'll see. Yeah, A+. Agree, disagree, what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland. Until we meet again, happy trails to you.